Hi, folks, and welcome to a more civilized age. I'm Matt. Joining with me is, as always, Ryan Kennel. Ryan, thank you so much for making the time.
Hey, absolutely. It's always a good time. I wasn't sure when we were going to get to do another one because obviously Matt's been pretty busy lately, but
Yeah,
it's
this
a
is the
good kind of busy. So
this is the only time I have. My Friday is going to be booked watching all the kids all day just for this one night. But I said I just need one
oh.
night.
Well, I assume your Fridays were already booked because you obviously watch me every Friday on Friday Night Tights on Nerdrotics channel.
That's
So I
true.
assume that's what you were doing Fridays anyway. So
Good shameless plug, but
that's right.
yes. I'm watching 12 guys and only one or two talk, and every once in a while, Ryan getting a word in edgewise.
Well, I don't know about that. But yeah, it's typical. Yeah, you're watching 8 angry white men, usually one minority on there.
Well, I was going to say X-ray girls on there, so
exactly. So we always have one at least. So it's a very diverse show.
She sits there and smiles.
That's right.
All right, and then hey, from the Star Wars library and a contributor to the expandeduniverse.com, Spencer, man, it's so good to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. I had to tie my wife's arm to let me do this on our anniversary, but here I am.
It is on
contributing.
As we're recording this, it is your anniversary.
4 years.
That's great that you said I do choose Matt over you today, honey. I'm privileged.
I give you 364 or 364 and a half. I can give these guys an evening.
There you go. That's true.
Day's over.
And after 4 years, she's already expecting disappointment, like all wives of at least 4 years. So she knew what she was in for.
Yes,
oh, every day I tell her, I'm like, I'm surprised you're still here. She still might leave.
No, hopefully this wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back.
I remember my wife had that first, oh, he's a serious nerd moment when I bought Pablo Hidalgo's guide to Star Wars, and he had everything, even the magazines in chronological order. I was like, boom. And I had all my books out across. I looked like a crazy man. I had all the books out across the floor, laying out the magazines in order because I was going to redo my bookshelf. And Megan walks in and I'm like, what are you doing? I went, this book, it has the insider issues. So now that I can put them in chronological order on my shelf. So I took all the books out. I'm putting it over here. And she goes, okay, how long is this going to take? I said, I don't know, but this is great. And she went, okay. Like, whoa, I did not. I knew you had Star Wars books, but I didn't know you were like, this is your night and you're excited about it. So
all the small things.
It's the small things. That's true. Hey, speaking of the small things, we got Tuscan Reader.
Yeah.
All right. That was a terrible segue. No, Matthew from the Geeks Attic. Man, haven't had you on since, and Ryan, it was the Rise of Skywalker, right?
It was in the immediate aftermath of the Rise of Skywalker. So I don't know if it was January or like February of 2020, but it's been over 2 years, which first of all, how have we been doing this show for 2 years, Matt? That's kind of crazy in and of itself. But yeah, that was the last time we had an argument over Rise of Skywalker, which wasn't really an argument. I like Matthew, you were like, yeah, it was supposed to be like Matthew liked it and I didn't. But then it turned into Matthew just like, no, I didn't really like it either.
It was kind of like, yeah, you're right. It's not that
after
great.
That discussion, he never showed up.
He never showed up again. And now he's back. So it's good to see Matthew again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here again after 2 years.
I had to go. I had to go to Oklahoma and I had to give Matthew my hat. I had to give him merch. I had to do anything I could just to get him back on board. Okay with the RK Outpost brand. He's okay to associate with me again, unlike some people in Hollywood. And we got him back on more civilized age.
Yep. Good to be here. It's good to see you guys.
Selfies. He texted me wearing your gear.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also had to send the kids to bed a little bit early tonight, be here. It is my middle child's 5th birthday today. So
nice. Happy birthday.
Time is going by so fast. So
I'm glad
They're a
I'm
handful.
crashing into everyone's special day at the same time. This is great.
Not mine. So
You had nothing to do, which is why you're here.
I mean, by the time we get done, it might be April Fool's Day. I'll take that one, I suppose. But
oh crap, that's tomorrow, isn't it?
It
Wow.
is. It is. According
Wow.
to as of this recording. Matthew, what was it like seeing Ryan in real life?
It was awesome. He's a lot
real.
He's a lot shorter than I expected. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there you go. That wouldn't be the first time people have said that.
It was awesome. We're at the Bricktown Brewery in Oklahoma City, and a crowd gathers, and this one guy approaches like, "Are you Ryan Kendall?" And Ryan's got this like, "Yes, why?" And the guy's like, "I don't agree with everything you say, but I respect you." And that was like a really cool moment. And then the guy, I think you guys shook hands, and I think he might have hugged you, and then he walked out. So
that was actually the most interesting person that was there, because one, I was surprised that we had, we had like 7 or 8 people on like 24 hours notice, that was so surprising to me.
People drove like 45-hour long to get there.
Yeah. So that was really like humbling for me, but that was the craziest person that we saw, because he didn't know that I was there. This was somebody that came into the bar because they had a pickup order for food, and they heard us talking and heard my voice, and like came over. They were like, "Are you Ryan Kendall?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" I assumed he was there for the meetup, but no, he was just randomly there and happened to know me.
Wow.
So that was the coolest. That was the coolest thing that happened at the meetup.
Yeah, it's nice that he was like, "I disagree, but I respect you," instead of just punching you in the face, because that would have been weird. That would have been weird.
That's true. And all these people who claim they hate me and say that they're going to do things to me, threaten to do things to me. Shockingly, I advertise where I'm at often. I've done it a lot, whether it's in Vegas, Boston, wherever. Done it a lot, and none of these people have come up to me. It's very strange. So,
because 99.9% of people will never do it.
No. And if they were, they wouldn't tell me. They'd just come up and shoot me in the head. Let's just be real. So what are you going to do?
That's right. The only person I got to meet at this lot is Spencer. It was at it was at I almost said Comic Con. It was at the Gen Con, and it was board games. And he came up to me. He's like, "Are you Matt Wilkins?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I watch your videos. I watch your videos online." I said, "Oh." He said, "Star Wars." I went, "Oh." He said, "Yeah, can I take a picture with you?" I said, "Absolutely." I went, "Can I take a picture with you?" He said, "Sure." I said to my wife, "Hey, he knows me. He watches my channel." She's like, "Oh no."
That's good.
I'm feeding the machine, man.
But it was funny because Jeremy and Dylan were with me, and I said, "Hey, that's Spencer." And
that's right. I met them too.
And they said, "Oh, is that Spencer? Whatever your name was on YouTube?" I said, "Yeah." And so they walked over to say hello to you too.
Yeah.
That was fun. Then I said,
"Yeah, that's how I met them. Got to know them." Yeah.
Yeah, and it was late that night. I said, "Well, tomorrow I'll be here if you want to hang out." And you're like, "No, I gotta go."
We only bought one. I think it was our second day, and that was we were leaving that day.
Home. Yeah, you were driving back home. But anyway, I had a care package and everything ready for Ryan to come see me.
I know,
because he kept telling me he was going to come. I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Hey, dude, can't come." I was like, "Oh, well, Matthew got free RK Outpost stuff." He's like, "Yeah, you'll have to buy it at the store." I went, "Okay." He said, "Here's a 10% off code, though." I said,
"Okay." Yeah, I gave you a RK Outpost 10. So I was like really upset because that was late into the trip, and I think I was just so dead, and I'm like, I have to get to Orlando.
No, I knew that because I told my wife, I said, "There's no way he should waste that time to loop back around and then go down. There's no point." So that's fine. Anyway, well, glad. That's a great conversation right there. But what had happened? Let me explain. On a more civilized age, the last time we recorded, the day after is when Tom Veitch passed away, which totally would have been the topic if I'd we would have recorded a day later. So this episode has been long time coming because, of course, all of us or most of us read Tom Veitch's stuff and enjoyed it. Matthew, I promise you, when you read it, you're going to love it. I'll start off. Tom Veitch has been around. He was around during the dark times for Star Wars. meaning it had run its course at Marvel. It was kind of on its last legs. He actually pitched Dark Times to Marvel. Lucasfilm was with, Marvel was with, the Star Wars comic books were with Marvel back then. And they even put an ad in one of their Marvel newsletters that, Star Wars Dark Empire coming soon. There was Chris Nelson doesn't have his YouTube channel right now, but I hope he reposts that video of him showing the ad in that Marvel, whatever it was, for Dark Empire. So it was a concept back in the late 80s, but Star Wars kind of lost its flavor that he continued to pitch and then brought it to Dark Horse, became its new home because no one wanted Star Wars. It was a dead franchise back then. And that comic book, along with obviously Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy, kicked off the expanded universe. I mean, what a few people don't know is Dark Empire was one of the, what was it, the second thing out the gate?
It would have been, I think. And
it was the second thing.
Yeah. And there was obviously, famously, they wanted Timothy Zahn to incorporate some of that.
Yeah.
They wanted him to incorporate some of that into his books. And because he had no desire to, I think they ended up changing the timeline a little bit for Dark Empire to set it after the Thrawn trilogy, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Well, their first in the newsletters, because I have the original comic books, people asked them, are you connected to the Thrawn? They say, guys, we don't know. They haven't talked to us and we're just doing our own thing right now. Yeah, that's kind of how it was. And then very early, and then just a couple years later, Kevin J. Anderson opened the door to comic books and said, y'all come on in. And it's been, and it was basically seamless. They shifted, they explained, they had to have a short story in one of the tales. I think it's Tales of the New Republic. How did they take Coruscant and then lose it, but then take it back within those two periods of time? And so they had to tell a story where they lost it real quickly. Because both stories, I think, talk about the same thing. So they had to separate that. But he was the creative genius behind Dark Empire, which happened to be the first comic book I read. Because I was into the books. I had no idea the comic books were part of it. And right before I was about to read Kevin J. Anderson's trilogy, because this is back before the internet was really a big thing. I didn't know what books were coming out. I was a kid. And when I was traveling to Seattle with my dad, saw all three Kevin J. Anderson novels, was like, shut up, there's more Star Wars books. My dad, before we got on the plane, he said, everyone can buy one book. And so my brother went off, bought some, I don't know, maybe Archie comic, I don't know what he bought. But I said, Dad, can I buy three? Can you get me three? And he went ahead and bought me all three. And I didn't have time to read them on the plane or in the airport. I did other stuff. And when I got home that night, I went to a cookout, and that's where I met Bruce for my podcast, Prince of the Universe, for the first time. And he was in line in front of me. We didn't know each other.
You said at the airport? Or at the
no, this is at the cookout.
Okay.
When I got home, I went straight to a cookout, and he was in line for food ahead of me. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, but he heard me talking about Star Wars. And he turned around and went, you read the Star Wars books? I went, yes. He went, if you're going to read those, you need to read the Dark Empire comic books first. I went, wait, the comic books? He's like, yeah. I went, oh no. I said, I never got those. I got to go to the comic book store and see if they have them. He went, I have them. You can borrow them from me. I was like, okay. And I don't know what 80s love ballad was playing at that time, but I could hear it in my head. And that's how we became best friends ever since. Maybe it was Rock You Like a Hurricane. I don't know. But I mean, there was some kind of, mad bro love going on at that point.
Yeah, some kind of like 80s hair band metal. Yeah. I like it.
Exactly. And I opened up Dark Empire. At first, I hated the colors. I hated how the colors are kind of splashed over the pink, the puke green, like someone had vomited on every page. But I do remember thinking, I have never seen anyone draw like this. Cam Kennedy's artwork is, and a buddy of mine who's an artist himself, amateur artist, he said Cam Kennedy is one of his favorites because no one draws like him. You have Greg Capullo, who's very similar to Todd McFarlane, and a few other, comic book, like Jim Lee is unique. You can tell a Jim Lee comic book, but Cam Kennedy is in that vein of very uniqueness, but his artwork's very good. And I was digging the story. That's what really kept me in, was the story. I was like, this is so cool. Luke is this is where he brings a Star Destroyer to the what was his? No, it was the AT-AT, right? He exploded its head.
Mhm.
I think so, yeah.
That's in that one, and I was like,
And then he
oh my
yanks it
gosh,
down, I
that's so
believe,
cool.
too.
It's so cool. It was so cool, and the entire time, I didn't mind the Reborn Empire, and for me, I was like, this is totally believable. Emperor's trying to extend his life however he can. We knew the Clone Wars were a thing. We didn't know what they were back then, so that was kind of iffy on what happened there. But overall, I really enjoyed Dark Empire. Anyone else want to share their
I just want to say that I think that like the saddest part about kind of Tom Veitch's legacy is all of the articles that we've seen over the past decade since Disney bought Star Wars saying these are all the best reasons that Star Wars needed, that Legends needed to go.
Yeah.
And always like number one on that list is Dark Empire. And the reasoning was always because the Emperor cloned himself, right? And then all those people suddenly disappear when Disney decides to steal part of that storyline and bastardize part of that storyline for what they're doing.
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of people use the example of the other day. I don't know if this is before or after Tom passed, but I saw somebody tweeting and saying that the sequel trilogies were bad for the same reason that Dark Empire was bad. Star Wars without George Lucas just isn't Star Wars. And it's like you'll realize these people don't understand the reason why the Emperor is the one that came back. It's because George Lucas wanted it that way.
Yes.
Each wanted to bring back Vader. Like they were advocating bringing back not even necessarily Darth Vader, but somebody that was in Vader's armor to make it seem like there was a Vader walking around there.
Yeah.
And George Lucas vetoed that. He said no. But he said, I'm okay with the idea of it being a clone of the Emperor.
And he was more heavily involved in talks back then because no one was talking Star Wars. So Tom Veitch got to discuss and pitch his entire comic book idea. And there is an excellent chance that he read it, because we know that George Lucas definitely didn't read all the books, but definitely read comic books. That's been validated by everyone, so good chance he picked it up and read the whole thing too. Spencer, Dark Empire thoughts?
I still remember the first time I ever got it. Before I bought it myself, I went to our public library and got it. And I had the same thought before even reading Tom Veitch's writing. It was that Cam Kennedy, like, whoa. Because I grew up on my dad's comics, which was from like the 80s and the 90s, where you had your Jim Lees, but a lot, like Spider-Man being my favorite, everyone was trying to be like John Romita. Everyone was trying to be like Steve Ditko, like the classic Spider-Man artist. Everyone was trying to draw like that. And so I was used to that whole idea of artists trying to emulate others. There were very few unique, and even the unique ones, they were even, because I think of like Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, it still has some essence of that Ditko, Romita. Well, then Cam Kennedy comes in and is like, I'm going to do my own thing. And so in me, I'm like, especially in Dave Dorman's amazing art on the cover, I'm going in picturing that, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? So it took me a while to get past that. But once I got past that and actually started reading it, then it was kind of the, whoa, bringing the Emperor back. What the, it wasn't until actually reading it and actually diving into the behind the scenes and more in rereading it and delving more into, I guess, the lore, that it was like, this makes sense of the character. Like, I thought Tom Veitch captured Palpatine really well, especially adding in episode 3 with the whole Darth Plagueis stuff, and then going back and rereading the Plagueis novel or reading it for the first time. It was like, this makes sense. It totally makes sense that Palpatine would be, the Sith are going to end, like, they're either going to end with me or they're going to go on forever with me, and he's going to do whatever he can possible. And so now I look back on it, and having reread it, having done a review on it a couple months ago, it was really nice to revisit it. So, but it's that same thing of, I think it was the lead singer of Linkin Park who said he likes water and he likes vodka. They look the same, but if you take a sip of vodka, you're immediately going to go, and then, oh, okay. That's kind of how I felt with Dark Empire. Like, what is this? And then, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good. So, to borrow a Chester Bennington from Linkin Park analogy, that's how I feel when I initially delved into Dark Empire.
I did not think you were going to bring Linkin Park into this discussion, but wow, bravo.
That is good because it is different. I mean, I don't, I like Dark Empire and I like a lot of things in Dark Empire. I don't necessarily think that Luke should have gone quite as far as he did Dark-wise in it. I think that takes a little bit away from like the journey that we'd seen before. I do understand it. He was overconfident at that point. He felt like I've faced this before. I've overcome this. I haven't succumbed to this. So I can do this. I can pretend to do this to get close. And I get it.
Go ahead. No, I can deal with
to
the
me,
temptation.
It just takes away a little bit from maybe the journey he'd already gone on.
Well, I agree. But as you said, I always saw it as he was young. He's super powerful right now, so he can resist anything. Now, years later, I love whenever that is referenced, that Empire, he talks, that is what started. And this is what Del Rey really got right. They said Luke doesn't have a weakness. Well, his weakness is fearing falling to the dark side. And he recounts, I'll find, when I reread this, I'll find it. But I remember he talks about that time with the Emperor, and that was a scary moment in his life because he found how the dark side could seduce him no matter how strong in the Force he was, and how he knew the dark side was wrong, but he was sliding down that path so easily that it really changed his persona.
There's a line somewhere in New Jedi Order, I think
that's where it is too.
About how, without Leia there, without Leia's love to pull him back, he would have slipped away forever. And that's actually the thing that cripples Luke Skywalker throughout the first half of New Jedi Order. And it's the reason he's so hesitant. He's so scared that not only will he fall there, but he'll lead his students down a path that eventually leads to the dark side. And in reality, that's a decision from Luke that causes the death of trillions of people. By his hesitation. Who knows what they could have prevented. But it's definitely, they worked it in a very appropriate way.
I agree. And for the record, Kip Duran always wanted to go after the Vong hard at the very beginning. So huzzah for Kip Duran. So I wanted to, now, Matthew, you haven't read this yet. I'm going to say yet. For folks who don't know, Geeks Addict, Tuscan Reader, they did a lot of Disney book reviews, new canon reviews, which is actually originally why you were put on this show, because you were given the new canon a shot. But recently, you did some self-examination. I'd like you to go into it a little bit here.
Okay, I will. 1 second. I want to mention something about Tom Veitch. It's sad when an author passes. Sad when anybody passes, but these people that wrote stories that had such an impact on people's lives, like for you, Matt, you were talking about you met one of your best friends talking about the comic book, so this stuff is powerful. It is moving for people, and it is sad when these guys go. We recently lost Dave Wolverton as well. Wrote that Courtship of Princess Leia. But I do have the original comic series. I've got the issues, and I also recently, thanks to Adam from Bryant VRM, he got me the cassette tapes of Dark Empire. So there's 2 cassette tapes inside. It's in good condition. So I've got 2 different ways to absorb the story. This is actually an audio drama, and it's featuring Billy D. Williams in there. So it's pretty cool.
I've listened to those, and those are really good. Those are a lot of fun. So this is one that's going to make your list soon to read, I think.
Yeah, I probably should read it instead of listening to it first, because that's how it was originally intended, a comic book series. So I do plan on reading those pretty soon. I've always been interested in diving into that story, so now might be a really good time. But like you mentioned about the Star Wars canon stuff, how political do you want to get?
Well, Ryan is very sensitive about these topics, so tread lightly.
It causes, like, there's been things in the canon that have been driving me crazy, and people will see. If you've watched my channel, I've got some Bible reviews. Okay, I'm outspoken about things a lot lately. He's like the shirt. Y'all need Jesus. I've been feeling this urge to like tell people more about it, because look at the times we're living in. They're pretty dark, right? And this stuff is all mentioned in a book that was written thousands of years ago. So we're seeing things come to light. Things could be coming to a close soon. But the moral code that I live by in the Bible is against certain things, and these Star Wars books lately are really pushing this woke agenda that I can't stand behind. I don't like the movement that's taking place right now. With the young reader books, the adult novels, the YA novels, and the junior books. Okay, I have all of them for the new canon. I've got all of the expanded universe as well. I've got 2 shelves here with both canons. I removed all of the junior reader stuff for now, because it is hard to separate yourself from things. You know what I mean? If you've invested in the whole story, you've got all of the books. It's hard to just take everything away and say, I'm done, but I'm trying. Yeah. So I started with the junior stuff. I'm no longer going to talk about those. I don't care what era it's from in the canon. I'm done. The junior books introduce a lot of sexual material and those are designed for 8 to 12-year-olds. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? They need to stay away from that. They're trying to tamper with children's minds by introducing things that go against both the laws of nature and the laws of God. And I can't stand by that. I can't promote it on my channel. The YA novels are going to be disappearing soon as well. Those designed for 12 to 18, sexual content, drug use. They actually bring in curse words from our world. Okay. How weird is that?
Yeah.
At least the expanded universe had their own words, right?
Yeah.
They made up different things. They're just dropping.
Kark, Criff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
This is just dropping. This is just dropping 4-letter words now. Yep. So it's like, oh, wow. Okay. They're not even trying anymore. So I get tired of that. There's drug use. There's talk about, what are the, my mind is going blank right now. The hookers. It's got that stuff in it. It's like, what are we doing now? Why are we doing this? And then you read the adult novels, which they're not as bad as the YA and the junior novels. There'll be one character that's got this little, sexual preference that is mentioned in a sentence, and then you never hear about it again. So it's kind of like the authors don't want to. Well, select authors don't want to. And the editor might be like, hey, I actually need you to have this guy talk about his husband for a second.
I think the reason you're seeing that, Matthew, is because I feel like the more experienced, accomplished, and probably better authors are the ones that are writing the adult versions. Someone like Cavan Scott, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think the people who aren't necessarily as accomplished, in Disney Star Wars at least, are typically writing the young adult and even the junior novels. Mm-hmm. And typically a lot of those are the more activist ones that we see, at least when you look at the High Republic authors. That's kind of what I'm gearing this towards, because that's what's going on right now with High Republic. But yeah, they're turning off an audience, and it's been predictable. You're right. We don't want to get too into it, because this is a more civilized age podcast about Star Wars, expanding universe. But with everything going on in Florida and everything going on with Disney, it's kind of impossible to ignore right now that there is an agenda at play.
Yeah, it is. And this is one of the side topics I had. It is something for a bigger topic, but I'm going to tie this in, because what you said, Matthew, goes for people of any religion, really, or even no religion, really. Do you want your kids being exposed to things like that? And it also ties into what Ryan's been saying for years, is that this type of agenda is ostracizing themselves from fans.
Yeah. And
they continue to double down and triple down on the small minority.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have an example. I want to clarify something though too, because I say this stuff and people are going to look at me, and it's been happening on my channel lately too, calling me names like, oh, you're homophobic and you hate people, you're a bigot. I don't hate anybody. There's just a lifestyle that I don't agree with. It's a personal thing. and if the good book says don't do things, I'm not going to do things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with everybody having their own personal opinion. If we have our life, live it the way that you want to, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else or lead people into lifestyles that they don't want to be led to in the first place. Then just stop. And with the young authors, Ryan, like you mentioned, they don't know how to write character, so they just assign things. So it's like, oh yeah, there's
why it's very simplistic. You see I forget the one chick's name who's like 14 years old. Oh, the best Jedi of her generation. Like that's her identity. Her identity isn't anything creative. It's she's really good at everything.
Yeah, she's the green one. Okay.
Vernestra, right? Vernestra, yes. I think that's her name.
Vernestra Rue.
Yeah, Vernestra Rowe. Like so like that is their identity. So they have they have a character who's black, and that's their identity. They have a character who's gay, and that is their character now. Yeah, it's like very simplistic writing. Yeah.
Yeah. In the adult novels, we have one. It's the Asian lady who Dr. Afra. Sometimes she shows up as Asian, sometimes she's white. They can't be consistent with her art, and she's also a lesbian. So that's what she is. She's the Indian,
and she stands up to Darth Vader.
Yeah, which is that's the comic book that really made me stop reading comic books in the new canon. I sold all of I had a ton of the trade paperbacks. Like at the time when I was reading, I was all caught up, had everything. I took them all and sold them. All of them. And I said, I'm done.
I think I see what's happened with Matthew. He was, willing to give new canon a chance. He was coming on here to argue and defend somewhat Rise of Skywalker at one point in time. And
that was his role on A More Civilized Age originally.
I know we kind of made fun of him and trolled him. Hey, you're giving new canon a chance. Okay, whatever. Yeah. And then, he went away because he just couldn't tolerate me. But then I finally saw him in person and was able to corrupt him enough. Now he's just a bigot. He's a toxic male. He says, get all this representation out of my books. And now he's back. He's abandoned the new canon. He's right where he should be.
I've been reading. I just finished a reread of Plagueis. I am over halfway done with Kenobi, and I'm also like 45% into the Clone Wars novelization. So knocking 3 of them out here in the past 2 weeks.
There you go. And you're going to see a vast difference between old canon, new canon stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to say one thing. Thank you, Spencer, for looking just as confused as I was when they started talking about new canon. I appreciate that.
I don't even
Legends thing, man.
I don't even read it yet. I hear enough about it that I know exactly what's going on with it.
I got you. See, so he rubbed off on you a little bit too in Oklahoma, it seems.
Well, yeah, it's really just I'm looking for rage articles, to make videos on. So that's why I know a little bit about it.
It's called click hate videos.
Click hate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the canon. Like there's a lot of people out there that are just like, oh, this is the best thing ever. With each book that comes out, they're like, how could it get any better? This is better than the last one. And it's like, guys, you're lying to the people and you're lying to yourself. Not every book is good. I'm honest with everything that I've read.
Yeah.
If it sucks, it sucks. If it's okay, it's okay. If it's good, well, it's hard for them to make a good book.
I'm the same way.
So.
Everyone thought I was going to start praising every single Star Wars EU book and EU story out there, and I don't. Mm-hmm. I still don't. While I'm rereading, I'm finding books that are worse than I thought they were. Yeah. I mean, I know Ryan said a long time ago, he said, oh no, Alliance is really bad. I said, was it? I can't remember it. Read it again. It's not just bad. It's got to be one of the worst books they have out there. It's incredibly terrible. And I'm ashamed. I have to redo my top 10 worst EU books now after rereading that. I was like, oh, I did not remember this was that bad. And there's a few other ones like that too. Take almost every novel in the Clone Wars era. It's just about up there. I haven't read them all yet, but going through
that's what terrifies me. That terrifies me.
Yeah, that's not that's a more comic book story-driven area there. Yeah. But when you get to read Dark Empire, and then afterwards, my buddy Bruce told me, hey, look, if you like this one, he also, because I kept talking about because the artwork, I didn't talk much about artwork. I liked story. Story to me was very important. I said, this guy wrote a solid story. He went, yeah, well, the same writer did something called Tales of the Jedi. It happens 4,000 years before. I said, stop. I don't want to read that. 4,000 years before A New Hope. Who cares? He said, no, you should read it. It's pretty good. I was like, this looks like garbage. And it, as everyone knows, it's one of my favorite comic books today. He wrote that, the Freedom, is it Freedom Nat? Yeah, Freedom
Nat Uprising?
Yeah, Freedom Nat Uprising, Dark Lords of the Sith. He did a few, and I think that was it when it stopped there. For Tales of, and then Kevin J. Anderson.
The initial, right? The initial,
like Sith War. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Great Hyperspace War or something, right?
Yeah. Well, that was a little bit before. That was another 1,000 years before that one too. But Tales of the Jedi, again, looking at the artwork, the writer picks the author. That's how it works. So the writer, again, Tom Veitch says, okay, who else can I get? The Tales of the Jedi era has such a unique look. And that's the thing that a lot of these other eras, they just don't have that uniqueness. Like I read a few Old Republic comic books that look like they could have happened back in, Star Wars Legacy era, like way in the future. I'm going, what? There's no feel, there's no design, there's no uniqueness there. And when you look at that Tales of the Jedi era, you know exactly what you're looking at just because the stylistic ships, their clothing, everything has such a unique look. I'll open any page and just show me, and I can tell you, oh, that's Tales of the Jedi.
And I think the impact that those stories had on other EU content is crazy. When you look at, I think one of the most recognizable Star Wars, IPs out there or stories is KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. You can't deny that with the reach it had, the accolades it won for both the quality and the amount of people that saw it and played it. And it had a lot of impact on that game, in building the world and even going to Korriban and exploring, all these different places with all these names that were written in Tales of the Jedi. That's how it was built. And, then of course on SWTOR later as well, like a world, a depth of knowledge, the foundation of which is Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there an issue with Tom Veitch where Vima Sunrider was supposed to be one of the big kahunas in KOTOR, and then we got Bastila? If that's true, remind me.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
I do think there was originally a Sunrider was supposed to be involved, yes, in the KOTOR game, and then things changed. I don't know exactly why. However, you do get Nomi Sunrider's story in parts of and Ulic Keldroma. There's a whole little side mission at least where you learn about them a little bit. I think you're collecting their journals and things like that, if I remember correctly, in KOTOR. So,
right, no. And just to have the same author write two of my favorite, I think I did a top 5 comic books. Both Dark Empire and Tales of the Jedi are in there because they're just fantastic. And it's based solely off the writing. That's how I kind of base a lot of my stories off there. But that's not the only thing he wrote. Of course, Dark Empire got a sequel, Dark Empire 2, which I was totally buying the comic books back then. Liked it, not as good as the first one. Again, kind of continues the story that we thought was finished in Dark Empire, but because he got the green light to do, at this point, he'd gotten the green light to do Dark Empire 2 and Empire's End. Unfortunately, Empire's End is when things got kind of rocky between Tom and Lucasfilm and ended kind of harshly where he got cut off from everything almost instantly. And I want to say that was 1995 when that all went down. Yeah. That was his last one. Empire's End, I was very confused. It only went 2 issues. It felt really rushed. I was like, what is going on here? It's like I thought for a while, I was like, did he not care? I didn't know the story, the full story from there. And Tom Veitch doesn't want to talk about it. I never saw an interview where he wanted to go into detail of what it was. But it kind of was a he said, she said type of thing as far as I can understand. He did, I don't know if many people remember this, he wrote a short story. Being friends with Kevin J. Anderson, he got to write the Hunter's Tale, the Greedo storyline from Tales from Mos Eisley. So he wrote that one with his wife. So, and the reason being is because Kevin J. Anderson was friends with him. And this is right, I think that happened in 1995 too, right as everything was kind of going down and he got blackballed. which is why he wasn't in. I don't think he could be invited. Lucasfilm forbade him to do anything, and he was kind of done with Star Wars too. So the feeling was mutual. In fact, there is a short story, unpublished short story called Lightsider, that if you feel like you're missing something when Dark Empire 2 starts, like who is Cam Salyer? Where did he come from? What are they talking about? There was a short story or a little book that was supposed to be written in between Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2 to tell you, what's been going on. Mainly Luke turning Cam to the light side of the Force, bringing him back from the dark. And they play this dangerous Force game called Lightsider. The story was written. This is part of the thing. He thought it was approved. George Lucas approved it without realizing he hadn't gone through Lucasfilm's channel first. He'd gone straight to George, which shows how accessible George was back then. And so then there was this big battle over it, and Tom Veitch basically, died without ever releasing it. However, I do feel that later on this year we're going to see it. Just a feeling. So, because those type of things tend to pop up afterwards. So a lot of people will be introduced to Lightsider, I think, very soon. But anything to add with the Dark Empire, Dark Empire's End, or Dark Empire 2, Empire's End?
That's the introduction. Anakin Solo is born in that one, I believe, right? At the end of the
Oh no, you're right.
So
Anakin is born in Dark Empire, but his storyline and whatever happens in that, he tries to possess the body of Anakin. That's in Empire's End, right?
Yes.
Or is that in Dark Empire?
Dark Empire 2, Anakin Solo, I believe, is born. And then Dark Empire's End is when Palp tries to possess Anakin's body. Yeah.
And the thing is, that's another thing that haunts Anakin Skywalker as a character later on in the books, which is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anakin goes through a lot. Anakin goes through a lot in his short life. Spoiler alert.
Needless to say, but I love how later on the Del Rey era, and I think even in the old Scholastic novels, Junior Jedi Knights, I believe that's mentioned. Because they were just pulling whatever history Anakin had, and that was one of the most one of his biggest events leading up to Junior Jedi Knights.
Imagine like writing this story for New Jedi Order and making the decision to kill like a 15 or 16-year-old kid who's the son of your heroes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what a ballsy move. What a dark move for them in 1998. That's not the kind of stories that people were telling.
Yeah.
Because I'm just 1998 because that was, when they were planning for New Jedi Order, because Vector Prime came out in 99, I think, right?
Right. Well, so, that order came down from George.
Because they were going to kill Jason, but he didn't want Anakin to be such a huge protagonist going forward with Anakin Skywalker
in the new movies coming out. He didn't want fans getting confused between the two. And again, I have to ask the doubters, if the EU was never considered canon, why would that matter to George? Yet it did. And he came down with that executive order himself. So, again, that was, but it's still, you're right. Ballsy move to say, oh gosh, we got to do this. And I thought Del Rey took a lot of big steps that way.
Imagine being in that writing room. It's like, what if we kill this kid? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that was big. Killing Chewbacca was probably the biggest thing they did. Such a big character. And Anakin's a big death, but would Mara Jade be bigger? Because, fans love, and still love her today. And to make the decision to off the redhead, when I read that, when I dropped I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that. Even when it was leading up to, her and Jason fighting, I went, it's going to end in a draw, or she's going to be able to get away, or Jason's going to run away. I never thought when we see Anakin becoming one with the Force as he's chopping up Vong, you know what's going to happen, right? I don't know. At that point, you're like, oh, they're going to do this. But when Mara Jade got it from Jason, I was like, wait, what? Did not see that coming. And I remember laughing because, of course, I love Mara Jade, but I was not a Mara Jade Luke fan. And I was like, I laughed because I said, this is going to piss off so many whatever fans they have still reading this, they're going to piss the rest of them off. And
see, that's good storytelling, though. I love it when that kind of stuff happens. Like, there's a certain movie. I'm not going to name the movie, but you're watching it. It's like an hour and a half into it. Your main character that you've been following this whole time, all of a sudden, just gets blasted in the face and they're gone. And then, like, the following 5 minutes, more of the leading characters are all just wiped out. And you're like, wait, what is happening? It's unexpected and it's like good storytelling. And if you can finish it all out satisfying, then you've done everybody a good thing. And that's what I wanted to make this comment earlier about the expanded universe versus the canon. And, you know, the iceberg, you know, it's like, oh, a little mountain on the top of the water. Then you go underneath and it's just this huge block of ice. Like, the expanded universe is that bottom half, and the canon is like still at the peak, and they're like trying to figure out, like, what do we do?
Where do we go?
Yeah. So if you expand the universe stuff, like, I'm so glad I'm getting more into it again. Like, I was progressing from, you know, the beginning of the timeline. I'm working my way through to the Clone Wars, which I'm worried about that. But
I'm
it's
feeling
nice
your
getting back
pain.
into
That's
these
where I
books.
am right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, those novels are hit or miss. That's for sure. I think there's a couple good ones in there.
Mainly miss. Now, to be fair, I am getting to what I think will be better ones. I heard I'm going to reread Dark Rendezvous. MedStar, I remember, was one of my favorites. So I'm getting to the ones that I remember a lot more fondly on.
Oh, the Karen Traviss books, right?
So yeah, I read the Karen Traviss. I've read 3 of them, I think, so far, and I'm not. Etain comes across as a psycho woman Jedi. It's just awful. But the thing is, let me going back to our topic here, just to Tom Veitch, and then I'll let Matthew rant more about the new canon. Or do an altar call if that's what he wants to end this. How he wants to end this stream.
Yeah, you're gonna make us grab, all bow our heads and give us a blessing because we've been partaking in too much filth in this world.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that I watched the Batman previous to the stream. I saw Matthew's eyes just gaze at me and just kind of shake his head in disappointment.
No.
But no. Anyway. No,
I'm not one of those guys.
It's sad that Veitch had that issue with Lucasfilm very early, because if everything had kind of gone smoothly, I just wonder what other great ideas. Tales of the Jedi and Dark Empire, I absolutely love. In my top 5, Spencer, I don't know, you don't have to put them in your top 5, but where would they be? And you ranked them. If you ranked them, would they be in top 10, top 20?
Easily top 20. Easily Dark Empire would probably be in top 10.
Okay.
Maybe even top 5. Tales of the Jedi, yeah, maybe it's because it has that unique style, revisiting it, because that's coming up on my thing. It's been fun, but yeah, I think that would easily be top 20. Dark Empire, 10 or 10, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. It's that good.
Yeah, I always wonder what other stories he had in his mind that he would have put to pen, because I would have loved to have read them. I would have loved to have read them. And it's sad that Lucasfilm relationship soured so early. Because, I mean, he went on to do other things, but none of it Star Wars. And I think we lost someone who was good at creating or expanding the universe that George created. And George should be proud. And I like to think he is proud of what the expanded universe accomplished, because these people got very creative with this story. And in my opinion, elevated and enhanced the movies. It didn't try to one up. It's not like a new Disney Plus show comes out and they say, we're going to just, contradict things that are in the movies and make our own story. We're going to bulldoze. We're going to act like our story is better than George Lucas's movies. I'm glad that's not the direction of the company today.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, and that was the biggest failure with what they decided to do over the past decade. And I don't think I don't think anyone necessarily set out, as much as we talk about the leadership at Lucasfilm, I don't think anyone set out to destroy Star Wars, but I do think they went about it where they wanted to show that these characters were better than what had been created.
Yeah.
Whether that's because identity politics or because they want their legacy to mean something, whatever that may be. And so they used a crutch, and they decided to tear down things that happened before, which is a huge mistake. And that's the EU didn't do that, you know. And that's why it was so beloved for so long.
No,
Still is.
Yeah, Matthew, spoilers, but Han isn't a deadbeat husband. He's someone who stays with his family through good times and bad, raises his kids, loves his children, and becomes the warm, family friendly. There's even, I can't remember which one it is, but he tries to go back, dip his toe into the smuggler's life again, taste the good old days, and realizes this is not me. I do not like this. And it shows maturity in your character. Now, that doesn't mean that his story arc's finished. He has tons of things to learn. He's got his pride to deal with. He's got his stubbornness to deal with. And he and Leia are so busy. They're pulled apart at times. It's hard for them to find quiet time together. He's still got to work on things. But he's not someone who, when the going gets tough, I'm out. I know we had a great time during Jedi, and I know the things I said were romantic, but I got to go. I got to abandon my kid. I got to do all this stuff. I mean, it's way more. And by the way, it fits with these characters that George Lucas presented us.
And the only time Han legitimately struggled with that was when he lost Chewbacca.
Yep.
It was when he lost Chewbacca. He went through a really dark time, and then as soon as he snapped back and realized that his family needed him, he was back.
Yeah.
So.
It's amazing. It's heartwarming. It's great. It's great. It's how the book should be. You should be reading them and going, this is great, good stuff. Not like being depressed and like, oh well, all my heroes are bums now. So Luke quit the Jedi Order. He just gave up on everything. That's nice, because he was the only one who had hope. And Darth Vader back in Jedi. Well, screw that now. If I've learned one thing, it sucks being the only one right. I don't know. That's why
it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah, you liked Luke the optimist, because he turned out to be right. We like that, but no, we want a pessimist. And it's cool to make someone pessimist and build him up. Re-break a character down. It's horrible. I need Professor Geek back on here to talk about that. Deconstruction is his big thing. But anyway, so if you haven't, for anyone watching this who hasn't read Veitch, I definitely highly recommend Dark Empire. I highly recommend Tales of the Jedi. I've done it so on my channel, and I will do so again every time that it's brought up, because I do think they're fantastic. I do love Greedo's tale from Tales from Mos Eisley's Cantina. Funny ending to him. Not only does he get shot, but what happens to his body later is wonderful. I thought there's a little extra story there and a little bit of backstory. So you definitely need to check it out. Another author, just like Matthew said, gone. He'll be missed, and he'll be remembered by telling some excellent stories. Now, I want to end here by giving everyone Spencer, you're with the Star Wars Library. That's your YouTube channel, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And what can people expect to see on your channel?
Well, wrapping up Jedi Prince, finally.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it, by the way.
And then doing the last Thrawn book. And then I have to check my list again. But Tales of the Jedi, so another Veitch is coming. And then, of course, Jedi Academy trilogy. So that's been fun, trying to place everything and go through and say comic book here, novel here. Here. It's not chronological. It's looking at those publication dates. So
and Jedi Prince was very early EU too. It came out after Thrawn's trilogy. I was starving for something to read. I read it and I was like, "This is great." Of course, I was 13.
Revisiting it has been so much fun, and I said it in my review for it, but I still remember one of my best friends in school. Like, I was upset that like Jason Janus Solo was no longer canon. He was upset that like Triculus and Triclops wasn't canon anymore.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know
You
he
should be upset
thought
because-
that like forget world hunger. This was the worst thing to ever happen. Triclops was not canon. I'm still like, love of Darth Vader, really?
And
Whatever, man.
Matthew, if you can get your hands on some copies, you will enjoy them for the right and wrong reasons.
And what is this?
The Jedi Prince series. It is so off the wall. It's cornball because it's they wrote to children as if they're like 4-year-olds. And the story is really rough to get through. But remember, you got to think of your audience. And that's when a kiddie book was really kiddie.
Right.
And so some impossible.
Not like now. Not like
not
now.
teaching them.
Where Matthew has them throwing them out because of the.
Not
the
teaching them about
identity
prostitution and how to have a period, that kind of thing.
Oh, gosh.
No, the work we have is an android robot Leia and a beatnik looking Jedi droid called TJ. What's his name again? I can't remember. JB, TJ. I don't know. It looks like he has a goatee on his chin. So you just reviewed anyway. And
I know.
It's very
I've
kiddie,
already
but and some of the like when Triculus burns down an entire forest just to try to find something. Dude, how about not burn down the forest? How about just search for it because you may burn the item you're looking for? I remember just looking back over those and thinking, oh my gosh, this is kind of ridiculous. The Empire is so evil, Matthew, that they greet each other with dark greetings. Oh, dark greetings. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's like Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It's so bad it's good. You just gotta watch it or read it, and then just roast it with
Crystal
your friends.
Star fan, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, huge.
The man
Huge
owns
fan.
more copies of Crystal Star than anyone I know.
Yeah, you know how I showed you guys that cassette tape stuff.
He said, I found an unopened copy. I was like, whoa, that's not a big deal.
I've got a sealed copy here,
Oh my
like
god!
factory sealed audio
Because they
drama.
knew what
of the
they
Crystal
had,
Star.
and they said, I'm not opening this crap.
What?
Yeah,
Audio
Yeah.
drama too. Oh my goodness!
Are those CDs or cassettes?
it's cassettes. It's 2
Yeah.
cassettes.
It's a bridge, too, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say to get it on 2 cassettes, it has to be
Yeah.
abridged.
It's
a bridge.
180
That's-
minutes.
That's what you need to petition your friends at Delray for, an unabridged audio version of Vonda M. McIntyre's Crystal
Hey,
For the
Star.
new Essential Legends collection,
I
right
was
there.
gonna say there's an essential collection, and we got 4 new Essential Legends reprints coming out April 5th. So
Yeah.
All these
copies of
losers
these.
want Kenobi. Psh, Crystal
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah, Plagueis.
Yeah.
So, Matthew,
It's like
what's coming up
Kenobi got
on the
released in like 2012 or something. It's like
Yeah, I have
re-release already.
I have the hardcover. That was like the first hardcover Star Wars book that I remember. Like I got into it and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then the new release was Kenobi, and I was like, "I'm going to get that." So that's the
John
only
Jackson Miller.
like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's going on with the Tusken Reader? What can we expect?
Well, you know, I've obviously got the Geeks Addict talks about all sorts of random stuff, but Tusken Reader's now just like the prime, just Star Wars stuff. That I just like I said, I've got the Clone Wars novelization that I'm going to be wrapping up. Kenobi and Plagueis, those reviews are going to be posted to both channels, really. But on the Tusken Reader, I kind of go into more depth and do other little extra things. Like I have a woke list that I made for the canon book Queen's Hope, which I don't think is out yet. But I've got the woke list done, and I'm probably going to release a video of that over on the Tusken Reader. It's just a bunch of nonsense stuff, but that'll be fun. So
Okay.
just Star Wars
Good.
stuff over at Tusken Reader.
Good.
It's like a
deal.
podcast. So
Yeah, definitely check out both those channels, folks. Finally, no one knows who you are, Ryan, but he's the guy that tells you what you should be angry about today.
Yeah, and each and every day, at least 3 times on one channel, 3 times on a sports channel, and maybe one on my other channel. Just it kind of depends. But yeah, you can, you know, Ryan Kindle RK Outpost. Once you scroll down past all the this guy's a racist stuff, you'll find my channel. So it's good.
And that's the thing, because you'll click on it and you go, oh, okay, this guy isn't what everyone told me he was.
It depends which video. Yeah, it depends which video you click on. But no, it was so funny that you mentioned that at the earlier. I think it was before we were recording about the like your friend who had messaged you about that my Batman review or whatever. And it's like that was such a big thing outside of YouTube. Like I literally didn't lose a single subscriber. I gained subscribers on all my channels. I think I've gained 1,000 subscribers on my channel. I never upload anything to this month. So yeah, it just tells you that there's different realities we're living in. You know, Reddit and Twitter is one, YouTube's a different one. So
it's funny because every time I say a canon book sucks, I lose a subscriber. So
we should have started reading them in the first place, Matthew.
I'm still looking.
I wash my hands clean of any ones. I hardly get cancellation. All the people I pissed off a long time ago. I'm done pissing off people, so I've reached that plateau. They're like, okay, we know where he stands on everything. We're good.
You see, what's funny is about Ryan. I remember when Disney fires Gina Carano. I come home and I hear Ryan's voice, and my wife, she's like, "Hey, have you heard of Ryan Kindle? You should watch his stuff." And I'm like, "I do. I've had conversations with him. I met him."
Right.
She's like, "Oh,
that's exactly the pickup line I would use if I was still single."
I know Ryan Kindle.
Hey,
right. I have Ryan Kindle on my podcast.
I had a beer with Ryan Kindle.
I can call him right now. He's a buddy of mine.
There you go. See
hold on.
how many chicks that gets
He'll
you.
respond back in 2 days. Watch.
Yeah, that is typically how it works. So, but I do respond. It's just like later.
I'm not poking fun. But anyway, all right, folks, that's it for now. Thank you to all my guests. We'll hopefully I can keep doing these at least once a month. I can keep this up. So I don't know what the topic will be yet.
The fact we have to acknowledge that we've been doing this show for at least 2 years.
That's incredible. You're right.
We need to go back and figure out when the first one was, Matt, because it's crazy to me that it's been over 2 years for this.
It's got to be 3 years, I want to say, even.
I mean, I didn't start YouTube till August of 2019. So that would be 3 years in August for me. So probably, probably like, I don't know, December.
It's getting close. It was very early.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that many subs back then.
That's true. It took me a couple months to pass you in subs. So
was it months? I thought it was weeks, but yeah. Oh well. So what? It's a bunch of Russian bots anyway, I hear.
That's what they tell me. So. I can't understand any of their comments, but I'll take the interaction.